Hello, everybody. Welcome again back to the Live Your Dreams podcast. I'm your host, Joe Gawalis, alongside my co-host,
Chris Victor.
We are very excited today. The next guest really is a legend in the business. He's somebody, talk about motivational. He's somebody that's been around the business for quite some time. He has credits as an actor that include things like Inside Man, Goodfellas, as a writer, Summer of Sam with Spike Lee, Michael Imperioli. This is a man who's a pure artist, a musician, somebody with a beautiful heart, stories to tell that you want to listen to all night long. Thank you so much for coming on, Victor. We appreciate it.
Sure, man. You guys are great. We had a good time the other day at Doug Schneider's monthly industry gathering.
Yeah, that was a great night.
You know what? That was such a good time. Doug always does such a good, a good job putting on those industry events, and they're important. You know, you got to have people in the in the world networking with each other. And how do you feel about that? I always think that's an important thing.
I'm really surprised he does them because he already has a girlfriend. Well, why else?
That's funny.
But no, they're fun. I got to see a lot of people I haven't seen since before COVID.
Yeah.
And I always love going down Restaurant Row, and it's just a historic street. Some of those buildings are original to the 1800s, and street lamps. It's just beautiful, and it's Restaurant Row because back in those days, before they had cars, the rich gentlemen would wait for the chorus girls to come out of the Broadway show, and then they used to call them stage door Johnnies, and then they pull up down Restaurant Row and they go to their restaurants. And if you look, you can see they added to the street because it used to be wider to allow room for the horse and carriages,
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Although I never could understand is who would want to go eat in a restaurant there after walking through that smell of all that horse shit on the way there.
Let's talk about, Restaurant Row, the history that has to do with the theater, the backbone of our craft. You have been in this business for quite some time. You're very well known, very well respected. You're an artist, you're a musician, you're a writer, you're an actor. What started your persuasion?
Me?
You. You.
That's right. Not the guy behind you. It's you.
But I actually started on like 46th Street at the St. Clements Theater. I knew Danny Aiello, and he did a lot of early plays back then. We're from the same neighborhood, and I used to live a few doors down, and he'd always invite me down. And then I did like my first play there, and my last play last year I did there too. So,
that's great. How did the last play? How was that? Going from your first play to your last play. I mean, that's to feel like quite a journey to have gotten to that place.
Well, I was thinking, and I was saying, I think I knew a lot more when I knew a lot less about acting.
That's interesting.
More natural,
Yeah.
But no, it was, it's been a long journey. So there's a lot of places and people that mean a lot to me too. That was just, one page in the book.
You've got to see the business evolve. I mean, we talked a little bit before about now everything's on Zoom auditions. We're doing Zoom podcasts. Everything has become the internet kind of connection. Have you seen kind of a disconnect between the actors and the relationships that used to be years ago compared to today? Like it has to be a different world.
Yeah, there's a big difference, man. A big difference. Back then, you can walk into a casting director's office, drop off your picture and resume. A SAG used to have a lounge where all the extras would hang out, wait for the notices to come out. You can call them on the phone. You can pitch your script or screenplay directly to a studio. Now it has to come to a lawyer, manager, agent. There's such a wall between the art and the money. It's a thick wall, It's almost like the palace walls of British royalty, There are those on that side and those on the other side, And fortunately, I climbed the wall before it was built any higher, But I bumped into Spike Lee at a party, and Michael Imperioli originally was going to direct the screenplay. I had a few drafts already done, and him and Michael's in a couple of his films. And he just asked Michael, "I hear you directing a movie. What's it about?" And he goes, "Well, Vic wrote it. You tell him." And so I just had a bunch of Italian guys in the Bronx almost beat their best friend to death because they thought he was the son of Sam. And he said to me, "Send me a copy at my office tomorrow. going to LA. I want to read it on the way. So I'm like, yeah, sure. It's premier movie talk, And so then he called me in the morning. He says, Vic, I got to leave like in about an hour and a half. Where's the script? I says, oh man, the messenger, man, it must be late, I says, all right, let me call them up, right? So I grabbed the script, I hopped on the subway, and I dropped it off, I ain't paying for no messenger, man, So then he called me from the plane and he said, he goes, he loves it and he wants to produce it. And he says, who's involved now? And I said, Barbara Defina from, Scorsese's producer, but she was in India when Scorsese was filming Kundan, whatever. And he says, look, don't let her do it. She'll bamboozle you. You let me produce it and I'll make sure it gets done, the way you want it. So he came on as producer. He tried to get, a deal, an independent deal, maybe $4 million, with Michael Imperioli's director, but Michael had no credits. So then Spike says, all right, would you be open to other directors? And said, yeah, I says, Michael, if you're not going to direct it, I says, you brought out a lot in the script. You should get a credit. And he was like, I only did what a director would do. The bottom line is, it's not the same script that I first gave you. There's been a lot of changes. Let's just continue the journey together. And
Nice.
and he did. He brought out, he had me make the characters older. He brought out certain elements, made it. Mine had more of a comical kind of Saturday Night Fever thing, and he brought in this other element, and it worked out perfect because the John Leguizamo character was a lot closer to me, and the Adrian Brody was more like the Michael, the rebel, the dark deep artist, So it worked out good,
You're excellent.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I love that film. Really.
Yeah, me too.
I remember coming up and just watching that movie. I admired that film so much. I didn't know you at the time, and I thought it was such a phenomenal film. Really, I used to.
Well, it's getting better noticed now than when it first came out because it was ahead of its time. It's a movie about being different and divisive. Like you had this whole one Italian mentality here from the Bronx, traditional, honorable, and all that. Then you had this wild, crazy Adrian Brody type who was breaking all the rules that we raised as Bronx boys. And so I knew the audience would be equally divided, And, some critics called it a masterpiece. Others called it a piece of shit, And one critic called it Spike Lee's poor excuse to make a porno movie, That was my favorite review, I have one scene in there in the cemetery where John and Mira are having an argument, and she says some very, very filthy sexual things to him. And I remember, typing out the line and going, "Oops, there goes the Oscar," But we didn't care. It's like you live for the work, for the art. Not, I don't even call it art. You just do what you want to do, like typical Italians. And if somebody don't like it, and this ain't the Statue of Liberty either. It's like. Statue of Liberty. I always wondered, it's like, and now it only
That's great.
I know why she's doing this, Killing New York, man,
That's great.
How to give us that statue,
I think that was the perfect advice any young writers or any young artists that are watching, listening, trying to pursue their dreams should hear. Do what you want to do. Make it for the art. Do it. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid of what everybody's going to critique, because I'm telling you, it took a lot of guts to do what you did and write a scene like that and not be afraid.
Oh, a couple of them too, but the thing is you have to make it or break it on your own. You have to do what you want, what makes you happy, and you have to be happy doing it. And you can't think if you make money or if you don't sell it, you don't make money, you're all disappointed. And if you do it because you love it, you like we laughed through the whole thing,
That's great.
And writing it, we were joking, and he's practically living on my couch at the time we were going at it, and. If you're not happy, doing it, you'll never know success. No matter how much money or how far you get, you have to, enjoy it, So that was the only reason, I did it, Well, actually, I was a regular on a TV show, and I got a little too much publicity where I couldn't even walk with my daughter, going to Subway. And that's when I decided, I knew I was going to write this eventually, I always knew it was a good story. And so then I decided I want to maybe just chill out, and go behind the scenes, you know, and it just worked out. If it didn't, you know, I wouldn't have cared. The journey was, you know, it was all the fun.
Well, creators must create.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the money was great. You know, it changed my life, but you know, it was never motivation, and it wasn't the ultimate for me. It was when you write the end and you're happy with your work, don't expect any more than that. Otherwise, you know, you're going to be disappointed.
That's incredibly well said. And you know, again, a lot of young screenwriters don't understand the process of the world, the business. How long from start to finish? I mean, because again, you don't write a script and the next day it becomes produced and it's just out. How long, if you remember, that process took from when the time you thought of it to the time you got it?
From the time I started to write it to the time of Spike bought it, you know, it was like, wow, man, almost a month. No, it was about 2 months, and then maybe I'd say maybe almost a year to finally get a deal. You know, he kept bringing hooking us up with a lot of directors, some well-known ones. Either me or Michael, we each had an issue with different directors, felt they weren't right, they wouldn't understand it. Certain directors, you know, asked us for this kind of change or that, and Michael and I, some of the changes we did use anyway. You know, to help.
Well, you'd have to say, Victor, that's basically, I'm sorry, that, you know, the script had to be good because the turnaround time is usually not a month or 2 months for most people.
Well, for Spike to get it, because like I said, in those days it was different. He was looking for a project. We just had something that it's a New York thing. That's his whole thing, and you know, and he wanted to do it. It's a part of New York history, and he liked that. But it took him about a year afterwards, you know, before we got a deal. You know, and I was working on a film. I forget. It was Denzel Washington was in it, and Spike came on set to get his haircut. They share the same hairstylist, and he says, I gave you a new list of directors. Then we had another director who was from London and a well-known guy. And he showed me, he says, hey, look at this. I got this pair of sunglasses, Ray-Bans at the airport, you know? I go, really? You know, some guy at the airport selling Ray-Bans. I said, let me see that. And I click them like this, and it's plastic. And in those days, Ray-Bans were glass. And I says, man, we're going to have a guy from London direct a movie about Bronx guy who can't tell the difference between a bootleg pair of Ray-Bans and the real one. No way, man.
Sure, that's it.
For that reason alone, you know. But so then, you know, I told Spike, I said, look, Spike, I don't care anymore, man. You know, I said, why don't you just pick a director? I said, just pick one you think can do a better job than you. Then why don't you just do it, you know?
Oh, great.
And he says, no, man, you know, it's like, you know, my thing has always been, you know, to promote, you know, Black artists and directors and writers because they don't get enough opportunities, you know. And then I read a few days later on page 6 that he was directing it. And, you know, it's like, oh, cool, you know. I says, I should be getting a call from him soon, you know. No, he was great to work with, man. Really great, you know.
I mean, he is legendary films, and you guys kind of developed the relationship because you were actually as an actor in Inside Man.
Inside Man, the Black Klansman as well. As a matter of fact, he's hosting a party in Fort Greene on the 26th of this month from noon to 7 p.m. It's Michael Jackson and Prince honoring a party.
Oh, sure.
And he would throw them every year, and but not for the last 4 years because of COVID. And he's very excited, you know, to be back doing this honor two great artists, you know.
Absolutely. No, that's great. That's great. It's great you guys kept that great relationship going because he is such a pure artist. I mean, his work is brilliant, really. It definitely is.
Well, I read one critic summed it up perfect. It says, one thing you could say about Spike Lee movies, whether you like them or hate them, that when you're watching a Spike Lee movie, you always know it's a Spike Lee movie.
Yeah.
You know? And not too many directors can say that. Hey, can we stop talking about him? You're supposed to be talking about me.
No, I'll give you a shout out.
I don't hear him talking about me all the time.
Victor, your conviction by saying that you want him to direct the movie and stay steadfast on that was what made the movie so great. So I give you kudos on not wavering from that.
Like I said, Michael brought a lot to it, and Spike brought a lot to it too. You know, one interesting thing, like, you know, he would give us notes. He says, Vic, that was also, you know, I'm not a sports guy, you know, he said that was a very big year, for the Yankees. So can you bring a little bit more of them in? So the Son of Sam was known as the 44 caliber killer, and Reggie Jackson's name was 44, right? So I had a scene where you see Son of Sam, walking into a parking lot with a couple making out, and he's going to kill him, and then you hear a Yankees announcer saying, and 44 steps up to the plate, he takes a stand. Holy cow!
Yes.
And 44 runs for home base, whatever it was, So he had the voiceover during the killing, and he actually hired Reggie Jackson to be in a scene too. They brought us all to Yankee Stadium and we filmed the scene there. I had Leguizamo and Adrian Brody sitting on a park bench or a car having a conversation. He made that conversation happen in Yankee Stadium.
Hey, there you go.
Wow.
That was cool,
Are you kidding me? That's fantastic. How'd you end up getting hooked up? How did you and Michael Imperioli meet each other? You guys
we got cast in like our first play. It was called Half Deserted Streets, and it was a work in progress, and it was written by Bobby Moresco.
Sure, yeah.
His first play. He went on to win an Oscar for Crash, and I think he's got 2 Oscars at his belt, And he actually has a really great workshop program called the Actors Gym on 45th Street. But anyway, so he would take us, to the location. It was like the Westies. It was about young Westies, and we're robbing things and all of this. And he would take us to the location, but he would do things like one of the catalysts for Michael's character to want to quit robbing and get out of the neighborhood was one of our friends had OD'd and was in the hospital. So Bobby would ask us, well, what can we do to give you the characters more motivation, Michael's character, motivation to really want to get out? How can we raise the stakes? And we're thinking of different ways. And then one of us said, he OD'd, he actually died. Instead of went to the hospital, Bobby died. Like he had the answer all along, but he wanted to make us realize it. And that's how it was like through all the months of rehearsals. And, so I learned a lot about writing, it was right in the beginning of my career. And I never studied writing or acting. So just working with Bobby was the basis for everything that I know. And then working with Spike, giving us all different kind of notes and, and things. And, so it was a bit, but, the thing is both Bobby and Spike, for an actor, they make you very comfortable on the set. And that's the only way to work, man. You got to be relaxed and open and, and they, Bobby would have us improv a lot of scenes after we already had the lines memorized and knew the characters, just to see what else might come out of it. So that was good to do. And Spike lets you, paraphrase and he lets you improvise, I had one scene, I was a racist police sergeant, and I used a derogatory term for Latino. And Denzel's character said, would you tone it down with the racial euphemisms? So I say, yes. And he tells me, man, you're messed up. You're going to tell me that like wearing a cop's uniform brought the racist out in you? Man, that ain't right. I said, no, relax. I said, I worked on these lines and figured, to further the character. And he goes, well, why did you do it in the rehearsal? I said, because Spike asked me to save it for a take. Of course, I would run it by Spike first, And then he laughed and was like, man, I never, he goes, you got me. He goes, I never improv in a movie until I worked for Spike, And so, and then we became very, very good friends on the set. He liked that idea, and I had a bunch of scenes with him. So, that was pretty cool, but it was fun too. I did it not to be a deep actor, but to really further my character. How can I like pull a prank on Denzel Washington? And it's like, I'm gonna get him, man. And I got my result from him. He got mad. I thought about it, and I was really worried about if I would be able to pull it off. It was my first scene with a major star, an actual actor, more so than a movie star. And he's way beyond a movie star. And so I ran it past Spike. And, you know, when I was actually on set working, it was a different ball game. I've often been asked what it was like to work with Denzel. And I said, well, I wouldn't know. And they say, but you were in the movie with him. I said, well, that was my character interacting with his character, but not for 1 second did I ever think that was Denzel. He's that good of an actor, and I'm twice as good.
That's great.
And I did a lot of paraphrasing and improvising, you know, in my scenes. And on my last day, the last scene, we're going into the vault to check out the money. So Denzel yells out, Sergeant Collins, yes, sir. Keep an eye on that on the bank, on that vault. Yes, sir. And he goes, and don't let anybody near it, you know? So then you hit cut, and Spike goes, Vic, why didn't you just give him a third? Yes, sir. I said, because it wasn't in the script. He says, now, on the last day of shooting, you're worried about the script. He goes, you can come near it the whole movie. He goes, give me your gun. I'm going to shoot you, you know?
That's great.
Yeah.
You are always enjoying yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Person to be around. You make everybody comfortable around you. Again, you mentioned that great networking event. Doug did a great job. And again, you've done major things in your career, and you make everybody that walks up to you, everyone that talks to you, feel so good. You know, you're just there to have a good time. It shows so much about you as an artist. I mean, it's always great to see you in a room doing that.
Well, you know, I tell you, no matter how far I get in life, I always be an Italian son. Who was left back twice, kicked out of Catholic school, and never got past the 8th grade. I've been a busboy and a waiter, a dishwasher, bartender since I'm like 15 years old. And, you know, so you never outgrow that, you know? You know, plus in an Italian family, they won't let you get a big head. They'll smack it, you know?
and as they should, because again, there's so many egos, and it's great and so refreshing, especially again, you know how it is to break into this business. When you're around people that are young and hungry, and they see somebody like yourself walk in and you're giving them advice or telling them stories, that means the world to somebody. I mean, that can make a big difference in somebody continuing to pursue their career or saying, you know what, this is not for me. I mean, it makes a big deal to these people.
Well, you know, what happened to me, a lot of it was, you know, a lot of dumb luck, just how I became an actor. You know, I was working in a hotel behind the desk. A director walked in, asked me if I knew how to make pizza. I said, yeah. And he said, I have a job for you. I said, I already have a job. And he said, this is in a movie. I go, well, how much does it pay? And he told me what it pays. And I go, well, you know, I'm making that much a week now. And he goes, no, you get that a day. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'll give it a shot. And, you know, and I did it, got into SAG. And, you know, from there I got cast in something else. And then when I knew I wanted to take it more serious, you know, then I would study. But Bobby Moresco had to deal with the hotel unions, that he had started the Actors Gym, that once a week, any hotel employee can go down to the Actors Gym and you know, he'll give them a scene, or they can pick a scene, or they can write a scene. And it was just, you know, artists, you know, writers and actors bringing in their material and working on it. And so, you know, from never acting before to be put in the hands with somebody like Bobby Moresco, I mean, that's a little dumb luck, you know? I mean, but it was after that I pursued it, and because it was fun and I did it. And that's the only advice I can give somebody. It's, you know, don't be a movie star, be an actor, you know? Don't look for funding, for funds, look just for fun. Take that damn DNS off that, you know? Don't look for funds, look for fun. And you can't go wrong, you know? You just can't go wrong, you know? You know, and I'm more of a failed musician than a successful actor. I've been, you know, performing since I'm in my early teens. And, you know, so, you know, but I had fun along the way. To this day, I still do it, you know? And, you know, make a little money. I play small cafes, you know, the kind of music that you don't have to pay attention to when you're eating, you know? And, you know, it's like, you know, you're in a band, you're on stage, you're singing. After the end of the song, they clap, you bow, when you announce the next song, get off the stage, you know? So I went from like rock and roll to Nat King Cole.
Any new projects that are coming your way? What's next for you in your, you know, illustrious career?
I have a project. It's a short film about a subject that's very important to me that I want to direct, and it's about the first Italian American presidential candidate who gets a visit with a warning from a time traveler about Earth's future as the damage caused by climate change. So I'm doing that, and I just finished now packaging together a TV series called Cocktails, where I interview different law enforcement officers about their most dangerous, their life-threatening, life-saving, most comical, just the most interesting stories I can find. Interview them, and I'm going to intercut that with reenactments of it, so it's not just talking heads. So I already got a lot of interest in that. I think it'll be a fun thing, and to get gain respect back for NYPD,
Yeah.
100%. I think it does need to be there. A lot of hardworking officers out there doing what they do. People don't realize how difficult life is for a police officer in general. The NYPD. I said,
you wanted a sample of my singing? No, man, I'm too shy to sing.
Before we go, let's hear it.
Before we go, let's strum a little guitar.
I'm not prepared. Mona Lisa.
That's great.
Mona Lisa, men have named you. You're so like the lady with that mystic smile. Are you warm? Are you real, Mona Lisa? Or just a cold and lonely, lovely work of art? What do you think?
You can get that again,
Excellent.
everybody, on the 29th.
29th.
Victor will be out there.
Yeah.
Really, Victor, you are an incredible individual. You're a lot of fun to be around. Again, no ego, a complete artist. You make everybody feel great. Your career has been phenomenal. It's going to continue to be great. I'm sure. Your TV series, your short films sound fantastic.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sat there, with the guitars and everything. It looks just like my apartment. How'd you guys do that?
We had Victor actually, Chris over here broke into your house and you weren't watching, and he was taking photos.
I did grow up in Brooklyn, on my defense.
Oh yeah, that's right, Gravesend.
Yep, where Son of Sam actually was over there killing my people.
Yeah. I know, man. Yeah, I saw you, Gravesend, man. I love that series. It was, it was so authentic, so interesting. I read bad reviews about it. I said, wait, I got to check it out. And nothing's that bad. So I said, I'll just rent one episode. At the end of the episode, I couldn't wait to see what happened next.
100%.
Binge watched the entire series like almost overnight, but Willie did a great job, man.
Oh yeah, yep.
It's hard to write an hour and a half movie, and he did 9 episodes, that he wrote, produced, directed, and his supporting cast in there was so realistic, the dialogue, the way they dressed, the men and the women, and I love the fact that he didn't show like Brooklyn, he showed a Brooklyn neighborhood, how intimate it was and how close knit it was. He showed the other side that you don't really see in the Scorsese movies. And Willie's characters showed like tenderness, he showed concern, sympathy, compassion, on top of, being a menace to society. You look at Goodfellas, right? And you say name me one redeeming thing or heartfelt thing De Niro did in that whole movie. He was a bad guy from beginning to end, He happened to be a very cool bad guy, and that's why people like him, and it's like, he's cool, No,
absolutely. Willie's fantastic. Yep. We've worked with Will on multiple pictures. He's a good friend of ours. Really always support everything he's doing. Gravesend is a fantastic series. Stand-up guy, really. I
highly recommend it, man. It's really good. It's captivating. I think, a lot of people would appreciate it. They're so used to Hollywood's interpretation of Italian life in New York City. But, his actors, like I couldn't tell if they were real mobsters or actors, but I know one thing, that the actors, they were raised in the same neighborhood as the wise guys, went to the same school, had the same type of parents, ate the same kind of food in the same places. And so, it's just so authentic. Their wardrobe, their dialogue, man, I could never do 9 episodes like that. He wrote it, produced it, started it, directed it,
No, it gets bigger and better. He always does a phenomenal job. And I'll tell you this, Willie supports his friends. He's a good guy, and really, we've known him a long time. We look up to Will. He's a great person. He does phenomenal job all the time. Always been very supportive of everything Chris and I have done. Has been in a lot of our movies. Is a good dude. Really good people.
Yeah. Where are you from, Joe?
I'm in Jersey, so I'm a Jersey guy. I was in Queens for a long time, so great family. Very fortunate in my life to be doing what I'm doing. And actually, my family just stopped by the office earlier today to stop by and just check out what was going on. So very blessed.
That must be so nice to have a family that still talks to you.
Yeah, that's so true.
That is always a blessing, brother. Always a blessing.
Actually, my only family is in Italy. I have a daughter, and
that's right.
I just got a new baby girl, Victoria. She's just almost 3 months tomorrow. So,
that's great. Beautiful. That's fantastic.
And believe me, there's nothing better in life than that.
Are you kidding me? That's the blessing. Vic, it says our timer's clicking down to 2 minutes left. Any last words you want to say to the audience listening out there?
Watch Gravesend.
Victor, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you so much. This has been a great time with you again for the Live Your Dreams podcast here. We'll see you soon. Thank you again, everybody.